Well, welcome to the Heat Locker fellas officially. welcome to the official start of the Heat Locker. Anything said prior to this period, we've had to delete just due to Jason being unable to take him anywhere. Welcome, fellas.
Thanks for
What's up,
having me.
Luke? Yeah. So anyway, so this COVID stuff's bullshit. I've had enough of it. It's killed my business completely. Like I've gone to zero. Absolutely zero income, which kind of sucks. I mean, you guys make your money off. Well, you definitely make your money out of jiu-jitsu, Jay, and then you make a percentage of your money out of that as well, Nick. Like, how's that affecting you guys? You just because like over here, the government's trying to do like they're trying to do shit where they give people money, but it's not really like I haven't seen a cent yet. Like it's been a month and it's just kind of real slow going. Are you getting anything at your end?
Well, here they're giving everyone like $1,200. Not like $1,200. They're giving everyone $1,200. So
That's like $1 million Australian dollars.
Yeah. So I just filed my taxes actually, like on April 14th. They're due April 15th.
Nice. We'll play there.
So I think once that is filed, then I'll get that money. But
will they just give that to you in your tax, or they'll actually give it to you?
No, they just like deposit it to your bank account.
Okay.
I mean, luckily, I'm doing a good amount of online lessons, so I never kind of really. I know, obviously, you and I have done that, but I never really pursued that much. But surprisingly, there's been a good amount of interest in it, so that's been pretty good the past few weeks.
Not surprisingly, I mean, you're the man. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. It's just a matter of people learning about that, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. What about you, Nick? Because you went back to your for those that don't know, Nick Ronan, his nickname is the accountant because he looks like a mild-mannered accountant. He for a long period of time drove a minivan, enjoys wearing khaki pants amongst other things, but he's actually an accountant by trade. Is that right, Nick? It is.
Yeah. So I started an accounting job in December.
Yeah.
And then I was just doing jiu-jitsu at night, but since this happened, I've still just been taking my checks from accounting, and then haven't really done much with jiu-jitsu since, besides working on my dummy.
We've been seeing you work on that dummy. What's been the response from that? The Maximus, is that his name?
Maximus, yeah, the Maximus dummy. The guy is like completely overwhelmed in New Zealand though. Like he can't even make any more dummies. Like the demand is much. Yeah.
So the guy's from New Zealand, really?
Yeah.
Is it Sam Neill? Is it Sam Neill that started his own?
Yeah.
I think that part's going to be cut from the podcast.
Yeah,
the Sam Neill part.
Actually, sorry guys, we've made reference to something that we can't talk about once again. But look, that would have been funny if Jason wasn't such an animal. But so Sam Neill's got a company in New Zealand making grappling dummies. Is that right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So, did he give you that dummy, or it's obviously not Sam Neill, but did that guy actually give you that dummy as a promo thing? Is that how that came about, or did you buy that thing?
No, yeah. So I reached out to him. I said, if I make a couple videos online, in exchange to ship me out one, and that was the deal.
Man, I think he's got his money's worth.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think he's pretty happy.
Yeah, especially now. In all seriousness, I mean, you're obviously promoting the product. I've always thought of grappling dummies as just being something that I couldn't get any use out of. Is it something that you? I mean, obviously, right now there's nothing else. What's your thoughts on it?
I do like it because it has bendable legs that I can use to like drill my leg lock sequences, which is helpful, as well as like bendable heels to expose the heel. So I use that a lot to work leg locks. And then you can do passing, basic passing stuff, but the leg lock game is definitely key when it comes to the dummy.
Does it react? You know how like you pull on a knee and the heel will expose. Can you get those sort of reactions from it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I still like an hour sometimes. It's pretty good.
Okay, cool. Is that someone practicing the guitar in the background, Nick, in your house? No.
What's up?
I thought I could hear someone like practicing the guitar or something. Is that coming out of your end, J Rau?
I don't think anyone's practicing the guitar. I mean, there's like a fish tank kind of like making a sound. I don't know.
Maybe.
Is it like a...
No, I might be hearing things. No, I can hear Nick yelling now.
Nick's yelling. Our friend has one of has one of the same dummies.
Mhm.
And I've used it before. I mean, obviously not the extent Nick has, and it's pretty good. Like you can practice a lot of stuff on it. It has all the joints bend like a normal person, and
Anatomically.
yeah, anatomically, it's anatomically pretty accurate. So
Mhm.
I think it's definitely valuable
I always
for
thought that's
sure,
what white
especially
belts were
now.
for.
Well, yeah, you have
And you can
your
break white belts.
Brendans and
Mm.
Harrys, and
hmm
what's your guy's name?
I've got a Harry
Curtis.
too. I've got a Harry. I've got a Curtis. I've got a few. They're all
You sent me the
disposable.
video of you rolling with Curtis yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was
Yeah.
old footage. Obviously, no one's rolling with anybody at the moment. But
Yeah. That
me,
was from
me
old
beating
matches.
me
But
beating up white belts and blue belts is a common thing. It's
yeah,
something that it's the main reason I train jiu-jitsu is so that I can overcome much less powerful and experienced opponents. That's really
yeah,
why Helio started jiu-jitsu, I suppose. To learn something to then overwhelm smaller and more defenseless people. I think that's
yeah,
how it goes. Something like I haven't done a
and to
Gracie seminar.
challenge people in their own gyms. Do challenge matches, challenge just regular people on the beach,
Yes.
and very respectful and.
Hey, do you guys listen? I was just listening before to a podcast, Flow Grappling. Generally, I don't listen to all the Flow stuff unless one of your guys are on there. But they've got one they did with Gary and Gordon. That Who's Number One podcast they're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to listen to that?
It's
kind of interesting. You listen to it, Nick?
What's up?
Did you get a chance to listen to that?
Yeah. I saw a little bit of it. It was good.
Yeah, it's always good to listen to Gary. He talks very well and explains things.
Yeah. I saw Gordon's opening up his own podcast, apparently. Well, that should be interesting.
Yes. I mean, that guy is a lightning rod, isn't he? He just draws heat from... I think he's fantastic, personally. I think he's great. Jesus Christ, he draws some attention. Like, nobody in jiu-jitsu has the same amount of attention that he does.
No, not even close.
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to see how that goes.
He had GSP on, didn't he?
Yeah, but it hasn't gone out yet, has it? I don't think it's gone out yet.
I don't think so.
Something.
I don't even know what it's called because I want to subscribe to it.
So I don't. King Ryan Show, I think.
Is that what it's called? It is called
the King Ryan Show.
He's fantastic, isn't he? He was talking about on the podcast he did with Gary there, about him being at the Worlds. Was it 2019 or 2018 where he's walking around with a cape and a crown on? It's fantastic. I mean, I can't see either of you two, and that's a nice little segue into, the promotional side of professional grappling. You guys are both professional grapplers. Also, congratulations, Nick Ronan, on being a black belt now. Man, that's so awesome. We weren't actually going to be able to do this podcast until we were all black belts, so it's nice that you finally came into the. I've been saying we should get Nick, and Jason keeps saying, "Look, he's not a black belt. Don't really want to ask him."
He's only been rolling at that level for like 4 years,
Man,
no big deal.
I turned up to Henzo's 2017 and got fucking smoked by a young Nick Ronan who was a purple belt, and I questioned my existence and questioned why I had a black belt on. And it's nice that you finally got that. So I feel better about myself because that's what it's
He tried to cut his wrists on the flight home in the bathroom, actually. Like it was in the news. It was a big incident.
Yeah. Well, we all carry knives because we're Australians. We actually all have knives on us. So I tried using that.
Big Bowie knives, right? Bowie knives.
That's not a knife. This is a knife. That was Paul Hogan. That's the only thing you guys ever knew about Australians for a long time was the Crocodile Dundee, wasn't it? I think it was. I think most Americans, they're like that. That's
Steve Irwin, of course, too. But
Steve Irwin, the poor bastard.
Rest in peace.
He got. I'm actually scared of stingrays after that. I didn't, because before that I wasn't really scared of them. They kind of grossed me out because they're this big, like, weird thing, but they didn't really scare me. Now they actually scare me.
I think when you try to hold one and take a picture of it, like he might have been doing, that's when it becomes a little dangerous.
But did you realize they have a literally like a fucking spear attached to the back of them?
Yeah.
They got this huge.
Apparently, it impaled his heart. Right, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Hit him right in the heart. Yeah, that's crazy.
And he pulled it out. I think that's why he died. Even if he'd left it in there, like apparently he might have, he may have survived it. Who knows? But he pulled it out. Like, let's say you get shot by an arrow, like in the old time days. The idea is not pull it out because then you got a big gaping hole in your chest.
Yeah, it's sealing the wound.
So he ended up getting hit. So he was told by like the paramedics that were on that boat with him. You've always got to have medical guys on all these shoots, and they said to him, just put a vest on, like a stab proof vest, effectively. And he's like, no, don't want to put it on. People will see it, and they're like, just put it on under your shirt, you'll be right. He didn't want to do it, and then next thing he got shanked by the stingray.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys are professional grapplers. Sorry to get sidetracked on Steve Irwin there. You guys are both effectively wanting to or making your living off jiu-jitsu. But you two are probably more on the mild-mannered kind of side of things. Barely have Instagram. The only stuff we see is Nick Ronan with the grappling dummy. We may see like a technique video out of you, Jay Rau, but you're on private, and there's a very strict selection process to get a start on your Instagram.
Application process.
Application, sorry, yeah.
In the last podcast, I think my mom listened to it. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you have to fill out an application to follow me. And my mom thought I was being serious.
Fantastic.
She's like, do they really have to fill out an application?
She's like, Jason, can I get one of these forms? Do you guys ever consider just going balls deep like Gordon's gone, for instance, and just go, because clearly that's something that, like, you guys are all at that level. I mean, Gordon's the best in the world, but you guys are at that level. You guys, it's not your, what's going to get you paid more is not how good you are. What's going to get you paid more is how many people are interested in you. I mean, you guys appreciate that. Do you ever consider, fuck it, I'm going to have a gimmick and I'm going to go at it,
I mean, there's definitely certain things that I want to be like that with, in terms of, the way Gordon goes about it. I mean, I just don't think it's in my personality to do that.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like when you do that, you open yourself up to a lot of scrutiny. And I guess if you're, maybe I just, can't take it, but, I don't want to be, I look at Gordon like arguing with people on social Instagram. Obviously, like he has more fans than haters, of course, but he's constantly coming back at the haters, like whether or not I mean, obviously he's way more famous than I am. I'm not going to have the same degree of it, but I don't know. It just seems like exhausting to like just go constantly at everybody and like. It's like no matter what obscure comment someone makes on some post, it's like he's always.
Oh, how does he do it? I don't know how he does it.
On them right away. It's like a full-time job,
He must carry a charger around to keep his phone going, just so he can reply to
or something
comments.
like. Yeah.
Nick, you know him better than us. Is that something that he's constantly doing? I mean. I never saw him sleeping between training sessions, but outside of that, is he spending a lot of time on his phone replying to people?
Replying to the haters, absolutely.
So if he's not training jiu-jitsu, that's what he's doing. Fuck.
Just replying to everyone.
And it's the same sort of thing for you, Nick? Like, it's just not in your nature to... I mean, you guys are quite mild-mannered guys.
Yeah.
Is that...
I'm pretty mild-mannered. I always thought maybe I would do it once I won something really big and there was a lot of momentum behind me. Maybe I could start smack and talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe. I know Gordon's trying to prime me to maybe start doing that, but we'll see. Maybe
turn heel.
I'll start talking smack.
When you win Polaris.
There you go.
I mean, no one we train with, does that at all, except for him. Even, Gary doesn't really talk shit.
Gary's just very opinionated. That's all, and people get people just disagree with his opinion. Yeah,
but I think even if you look at him, like he'll respond to people, not that Gordon doesn't, argue with people, but Gary is like, if someone differs in opinion, he's like, all right, I respect that. He's kind of, but he'll call people out, but he's pretty respectful. Like Gordon will be like, go get hit by a fucking 18-wheeler or something.
Fantastic. He puts some real thought into his comebacks. It's great.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the best follow on Instagram, to tell you the truth. I think
very.
he's all,
Very
and when he goes on like someone fucks him over at the grocery store or something, and then he goes on like a 25-page story rant on why he hates people, and it's fantastic.
Royal Guards attack Macy's or whatever.
I mean, yeah, his latest one was he was arguing with Toyota over something. It was just hilarious. I don't know if you keep up to date with all these things, but it's fantastic.
I think Toyota had to make their like account private because they were getting so many messages, like hateful messages.
I mean, but when he, he's got a lot of followers. If he, and people are loyal to him, if he gets, has an issue with some company, like it's going to be like a social media blowback for them. They have to respond or do something. It's like not worth it. Whoever runs Macy's social media account when that happened was like, something's going on here. Who is this Gordon Ryan person? Yeah, they did some research and they're like, fuck, we got to give him a $500 gift card to make this right.
I don't want to make this about Gordon. That wasn't the topic of this podcast. But I mean, you in particular, you competed against him, Jay. You may have been a brown or black, and he was a purple belt at the time.
I think it was November 2014.
Yeah,
so I was a brown belt. I was I got my black belt February 2016. So it was like a few months before I got a black belt.
Yeah. So did you? I mean, did you see the potential in the guy from an early age, or could you not have picked that he was going to project to where he's ended up going?
I remember before that match, he had actually faced James Gonzalez, who's someone that trains with us, who was always good, and he had beat James.
Sounds like a nice Mexican gentleman.
Yeah.
And remember, anything south of Texas, he's Mexico.
James is the guy. Did you see that like crazy submission Matt posted? And it was an MMA fight. James like broke the guy's arm.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was like an omoplata. He pulled the elbow out.
Yeah. Like an overhook arm bar. So he had faced James and he had beat James. So like in that sense, I knew who he was. But this is before kind of that whole like Danaher Death Squad at Revolution, we'll say. I knew who Eddie was, but he had never won anything up until that point. He actually had competed that night too. He did like a absolute division.
Eddie did.
This event was called PGL. It was like one of the first events where you had like one match going on at a time. It was in like a ring. I mean, there was no money in it. It was at some like in some like dinky gym in New Jersey that had a ring. And Eddie competed that night, and he, leg locked all these big guys. But at the time, I didn't know anything about leg locks. I still didn't really think they were that effective.
Oh, really? And this was before you had.
This was before I knew anything about leg locks. Yeah. This is before that they were even that. It was like just starting. So I kind of knew who the guy Gordon was. I knew he was good, or knew he was supposed to be good. But I mean, I think, him at that match, even like a year later, like he's a completely different, person. I think this is when he first like really started to go to the city, and started to train with John. So it was definitely.
It was a good match. It was still a good match. You can see.
Yeah, it was a competitive match. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was like.
I mean, at the time, I was rounds. Like, "Fuck, man, who the fuck? Like, I fucking suck."
I can't even beat a pill.
But then, like in hindsight, it doesn't make me look too bad.
It was like 3 threes, and you could see you working your reverse De La Riva game and bits like part of your. Obviously, you're a totally different animal nowadays too. Like, it's interesting to see. There's a lot of probably these matches that have happened before guys sort of blew up that people don't know about. That probably people don't realize that. Did you when you started training with Gordon, did you guys realize you'd gone against each other, or it was kind of?
Well, I mean, ever since that match, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
I started following him on social media, and when I started going to the city, it was probably like I started going probably right after I got my black belt, like once a month or once every 2 weeks. So it was probably a little bit before I trained with him. I would go Mondays, and it would be freaking packed there, as you guys know. You know,
Mm.
like 70 people in the room. So, and this is like just as things were starting to kind of like materialize over there. So, and then like, you know, I trained with him a few times. You know, we had pretty good matches, and you know, that's when I started really training with him when I would go there.
You know, he still to this day, when asked in podcasts and interviews, and they say, "Look, tell us who's the guy at Henzo's," he says your name every time. You're the guy. He says Jason Rau. He still says it. Like he's obviously got a lot of respect for you, which is you know cool considering he's for you know general consensus probably best grappler in the world, and he knows grappling very well, and you're at the top of his list. So that's a big feather in your cap. You know, again. You don't really use that to your advantage, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely
on
cool.
loop on my Instagram.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. You know, I would definitely want to convert that to he's one of the best competitors in the world, you know, and have the competition results to back that up. But it definitely, you know, it's like, 'cause I feel like I know how good I am in, you know, respect to a lot of the other guys at the top of my weight class, and just through training with different people, you know, I definitely know where I'm at. It's nice to hear someone, you know, at the top of the game say that, but at the same time, I want to be able to, you know, convert my skill level to success against people that level in competition.
Right. So you nearly look at it. Sorry, Nick, I'm going to come to you in a sec. I don't want to think like we left you on the lounge there. Just we're not leaving you out. You nearly look at it nearly like it's not meant as a backhander, but you take it more like, yeah, that's all well and good, but I would like to be known as much for what I put down in competition. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I don't want to be the guy who's really good in the gym and you know hasn't won anything. Which I kind of feel like, not that I haven't won any matches, but yeah, I feel like my ability in the gym or what I can do in the gym is not reflect what I've done in competition.
What since we're going down that path, what is it? I mean, if you look at your competition record, you nearly never lose. If you lose, it's by either referee's decision or a points. It's never. I mean, I don't know the last time you were submitted in competition. That would probably have to be a fair while back. I mean, since
last time I got submitted was PJ Barch, probably 3 years ago.
What was that? That wasn't Kasai, was it? No.
It was that was
it was like
in Zapatero. That was like 2000, like that was, I don't know what, maybe it was May 2017, something like that.
Did you come back and beat him? I know Nick beat PJ. I'm sure. Am I right, or did I get that backwards?
I had a batch with him, but I lost him in overtime, riding time.
Who had him at Kasai? Who?
I had him at Kasai. Yeah.
Did you beat him at Kasai?
Yeah.
You beat him at Kasai. Okay, I'm getting confused. I did see.
Amazing match, by the way. You got to watch that, Luke. If you haven't seen that in a while,
I've seen. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but I might go back. I've watched all the Jays. I think I watched that. Live, but that was
right before I came to Australia. Maybe like a few weeks before.
And then you nearly died, but we can talk about that.
Yeah.
We're going to get off topic. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, you're definitely like if I looked at your competition record, you're competing only really against really good guys and doing very well. Why is it that people still seem to think that when they say Jason Rau, they say best guy that never has quite done that yet? Like, what is it? Why are people thinking like when you've still done plenty? Like, do you feel like you've got to win the trials, or you've got to win a medal at 80s? Like, what is it you've got to do for people to kind of switch for that mode? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, this is. I mean, I'm sure the people I face don't feel this way, but I feel like everybody I've lost to, I would say, I mean, even for the past like 3 or 4 years, I feel like I am better than.
Yep.
Even like, you know, probably one of my worst matches was against like Canuto.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously that was score wise, it was one sided. Like I didn't really do anything, but I guess take this with a grain of salt. But I feel like I have better jiu-jitsu than he does.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah. I'm a little biased, but yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm sure everyone he trains with and most people listening to this would disagree with you. or disagree. I'm sorry, disagree with you, disagree with me, and that's totally fine. But I truly feel
guys.
that, and I feel like I am better than the people that I'm losing to. So, in that sense of not performing to your ability, I think that kind of says it right there. Like if you're losing to people who you're better than, there's definitely something that needs some type of correcting, I guess.
But is it? I mean, you seem to have, you don't get overwhelmed by matches. You go out there and what is it? What is it that's the block then? Like, is it just not playing the rules right? Like, what is it that's, what
I think
gets
that's part of it. I think
gets
not
you
playing
that next level?
Not playing the rules correctly. Maybe coming out. I mean, you've said this to me a few times, Nick. Like coming out like a little too relaxed sometimes. Like I definitely don't feel.
You never seem urgent. You never seem urgent.
Yeah,
it's always
I think some people get like too urgent and get tired. I never feel that way really.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Go ahead.
I think you wait for people to come into you a lot during matches, but I mean in practice you're just coming at me nonstop for an hour straight.
Yeah,
like a little bit too counterattack too much a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
you know what I like in it too, Nick? I think what you're saying there is exactly right. Jason Rau is like a wood chipper, one of those huge fucking industrial ones that they put like big trees into. And if you go anywhere near that thing, it's going to suck you in and fucking like put you into pulp. And and I often think about this in training. We generally engage with each other because training people are less worried about losing. Then you get to a tournament, especially certain types of guys, they don't go near the wood chipper, and they can work out, if I stay away from it, I can work out a way to survive. This is their number one thing, and then somehow just game it just to get their advantage or their win or whatever. And that's it. And I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Is like you're such a fucking wood chipper. I think that's the perfect analogy, that people don't wrestle with you the same way they would with somebody else. Is that fair to say, Nick? Do you think, when we're talking about Jay, like?
Yeah, I mean, in matches, no one really seems to get close to them. They all play that like outside game where they kind of jump around side to side and you never get a hold of someone. And if you do, it's for a quarter of a second and they're pulling their legs out violently.
And I mean,
it's tough to combat.
This also kind of used to happen to Eddie Cummings a bit, didn't it? Like, but Eddie wouldn't come out of his shell whatsoever. I mean, I think Jay's like more so likely to come out of your shell than Eddie was. Like, Eddie's like, unless you wander in close, he's not going to do anything, kind of thing. I wonder if that's that evolution, and I'm not even giving advice here. I'm just saying, like, I'm just talking, like, I wonder if that's that next thing where if you grab hold of guys and they can't get away, I think everyone's fucked. Like, I don't see people surviving matches unless they game it. Like, is this for you, is it it doesn't seem to me as a technical thing. It must just be how you approach, the actual match.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I always feel as if I could be more aggressive in pretty much all of my matches. But at the same time, I feel, it's a little bit of a two-way street. I mean, especially in no-gi, you have one guy generally on bottom, one guy on top. I mean, the guy on bottom is on his butt or on his back, and he's in a completely unathletic position. And if the person on top is not really engaging, I mean, it's very hard to, get someone to come into you. Like someone like Gordon,
especially no-gi,
or Nicky Ryan are excellent at forcing engagement. I mean, they're like hyper aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned like Eddie or even JC. Like, I mean, I feel like, I mean, they're like both so dangerous. It's like
you just can't go near them.
Yeah, it's especially. I mean, I think I've seen a little bit of. I mean, in any of the matches JC has lost in the past, 2 years, no one's hit a single move on him the entire time. But it's like you can't get a hold of someone. It's like you want to handcuff the person to him or something like that. And same with Eddie, obviously. I mean, even when Eddie faced Canuto, whenever that was at Kasai.
Oh, it was horrible.
We were there for that, Nick.
I
mean, it was horrible. I mean, you could definitely say it's a two-way street. Eddie did not come out of his shell, but Canuto also really didn't do that much. I mean, what was he trying to get Eddie to come up on a single leg or something?
Yeah.
Which
but the way I
was
see
not
it,
going to happen.
This is the way I see it, Jay. Like, if one guy's on his back and the other guy's on top, the guy on top, you would have to say his goal is to pass the guard and try and move through, a set of pins.
Yeah.
If he's refusing to do that and the guy on bottom's trying to come near him, well, clearly there's one person that's been the aggressor, even if he's on his back. Like the guy on the bottom's been the aggressor. I mean, what do you think about? I think what could not fix, because I think submission grappling's fine, but I think what could make it maybe more appealing to people and definitely cause more finishes is if we had really strict stalling calls, kind of like wrestling does. In wrestling, like if you take a backward step, they give you and then before you know it, you're disqualified. I mean, Nick, you did wrestling. Do you think that could work in jiu-jitsu? Like obviously you'd have to have referees that were very good at understanding what they're looking at, but
because you can stall on both bottom position and top position. So, I mean, it can be complicated at times, but I do think implementing stalling rules can definitely help.
I agree.
They put people on 30-second shot clocks, and if they don't score in those 30 seconds, then the other guy gets a point.
Where do they do that, Nick?
International wrestling.
Okay, that's wrestling. Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting, but I look forward to. I mean, what are your sights set on, Jay? Like once we come out of fucking hibernation here, have you got? Is it ADCC finals next year? Is that still the goal? Is that what are we looking at, or just win everything aside?
Well, the trials are in November here, so I think. Well, Nick has the Polaris whenever they.
Yeah, I want to talk to Nick about that next year.
But I think aside from that, getting him ready for that, we both want to win the trials this year. Whether it's the East or West Coast, I think that's the kind of one of the main goals for sure.
I mean, your performance at the trials last year and the year before was, by all means, very, very good. I mean, that the East Coast trials, you ran through everybody, and then, I mean, if we're being honest, it was just probably a game plan thing with Sativa where he played a winning strategy, I suppose, is the way to put it down.
Definitely.
Really the same way that Mateus did against Craig in the final. It was very much the same smart gameplay you would expect out of Marcelo's. They're good at getting towards that W. Take from that what you will, but that was definitely again, you just said, like, I'd say you're a much better grappler than Sativa, and then just I suppose the fuck up with Tackett, but other than that, like, you dominated the trials. I mean, you'd have to be another guy that's going to cause some damage in there. Hopefully you two don't come across each other. That's only going to be the only problem, isn't it? Like, do you think if one's doing the trials, or will you both try and jump in at the other end of the brackets? Like, have you talked about?
Well, I think. Well, you can go, Nick.
Well, I mean, I think I'm planning on doing 77.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Jason's gonna do a weight class above because I know he's getting a little bit bigger.
A thick boy with the C's. Thick.
3 C's.
That's an American thing. Yo.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do 88. Something like that.
There we go. So we might have to. I'll have to get you some steroids, Jason, because we're gonna have to get you much bigger, mate.
Well, I mean, we could even, obviously depending how it goes, if I win 88 or whatever, and and then for the second trials, if one of us wins, like, the other person can go wherever they think is easier, assuming we both don't win the first trials. There's definitely, I think 99 plus is the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds crazy. But that's kind of like that's like where there's less traffic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's madness. No, you're right, mate. It's only what is it? 8 a.m., 9 a.m.
It's not that early. It's after 9 here.
Yeah.
It's currently, what is it here at the moment? It's midnight, I think. Oh, it's 11:16 actually. I've got
my sleep is all fucked up with this whole thing. Not. I'm sorry. I don't want to say it's fucked up. I'm sleeping well, but like, just the times are like shifted. So I don't have to wake up as early. There's no reason to go to bed as early. So everything's like shifted a few hours.
We'll come back to sleep in a sec. I want to talk to you about sleep because I see your whoop strap. I got mine on here as well. I want to talk about that and see what people think. But I want to
crikey,
whoop power.
I'm sorry. Let me make another coffee. I'll be back in
I'm going to
literally
talk to Nick about
under 2 minutes.
Go for it, mate. Nick Ronan, the Polaris qualifiers. I wanted to talk about that because that was beautiful. I mean, Polaris is, probably top. What are we talking? Top 3 promotions as far as what's around now. Man, you murdered your way through that. That was that an absolute. That looked like an absolute division.
Yeah. It was a 32-man absolute and it was only brown and black belts.
Yep.
Pretty much like some of the best guys in Europe attended.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good event.
Yeah, and so 32 mans. I find, a lot of guys can win super matches here and there because you've just got to concentrate on one match, just one opponent. You can game plan. I find a big tournament like that, is that 5 or 4 to win? How many do you have to win?
So I actually had 4 because there's a last minute dropout.
Okay, but effectively you're preparing to have to win five matches,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
That's a lot. That's a lot of focus. Did you draw an experience kind of from coming through doing tournament style nagas or whatever, or wrestling in high school? Did that help you coming into that?
I would say wrestling in high school would probably help the most because you're just
Yeah.
there tournaments all day. You could have 5-6 matches in a day, and that's always super helpful. But in jiu-jitsu, every match was 10 minutes, so it was a long day. I mean,
You didn't have many 10-minute matches, but
no, I didn't. But the plan was to get out early and be fresh for the finals.
And it looked at. I think did you have one overtime from what I saw? Was that right?
No, I had no overtime. I submitted
beautiful.
everyone. I submitted everyone but 2 guys. So I submitted 2 guys. One guy won on points. Oh, and then I submitted everyone but 1. And then in the finals, I submitted him with the rear naked choke.
That guy that you had in the final, I mean, it looked like he was doing well against other guys. He had some leg locks in his game and a few other things. But you just looked another level, which I totally expected to be.
He was really good. He was like a prodigy of Ross Nichols.
Okay.
I think he was under Ross. He was really good. He was leg locking people, armbarring. And he knew the points game really well, which made me a little nervous because I don't have that much experience to have rule set. But I was able to submit him in the finals. So
nice back strangle because you like to attack the back maybe a little differently to how some of the other Danaher guys do, where a lot of the guys work the straitjacket system of trapping with the legs. You like to sort of what I call like cycle strangle hands where you attack. Is that fair to say? You like to attack with, right and left strangles. I find that maybe the most difficult guy to deal with on the back is a guy who cycles strangle hands rather than a guy who's just working an under and a control. Did that work well for you in that tournament?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was just constantly punching through the hands and switching between cranking into strangles as well as elbow posting, slip the hand through, and then pummeling with both hands. Usually gets a breakthrough because it's pretty hard to deal with strangles coming from both ways. So yeah.
Yeah, and do you find I find that if I don't have a good lower body control, strangling both sides, it doesn't work as well because guys start to misalign their shoulders. But I find you've got to have like a good lower body. Did you hit body triangle because you got long legs? Do you hit body triangles and then go to work from there?
I think that's one of the reasons why that way of finishing on the back is so effective for me is because I can lock really tight body triangles, and it's hard for people to move their hips. And then I have an ability to pummel with both hands in. So getting a strong lower body control is definitely key to that move.
Yeah, I've got a guy. You guys know him, Ethan Thomas, one of my training partners. He's a black belt, and he's very good. Yeah, very good, very strong, very athletic, and he's improved his back attack game out of sight in about the last 6 months with all the training with me, which is all coming back from J Rau, and he's switched to doing that when he gets my back now, and I fucking hate it. Like I hate it, and I don't deal with it well, and it's driving me insane, that switching of strangle hands. And I've talked to Jason about it, and he said it's something you do, and you get a lot of good success with it. So I mean, that might be something that's worth putting more time into. I think a lot of people really went at trapping the arms because it is so effective, obviously, but I think it's easy to forget that doubling up with that strangle is a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, you can relax in there when someone has your back, or it's going to be over. So it definitely keeps you on your toes when someone's pummeling both hands like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you turn your head one way to deal with the, you have a strangle, defensive hand up, you turn your head one way to deal with that, and then the second one feeds through, and you sort of start to think to yourself, well, which one's more of an issue here? And they've only got to slide under your chin, and then things are bad, which is obviously what you did in that tournament. Did you hit any? I mean, I know you like to hit that forward step in like a top passing position, kind of like Frank Rosenthal does as well. Did you hit any of those entries in that tournament? Or?
No, I played mostly from bottom because that was much bigger than me for the most part. So I was hitting more leg lock entries. Nothing really from top except passing. And a lot of it was counter leg locks too, because a lot of people were confident getting into the leg locking position, so it was easier to counter.
Yeah, that's interesting because as we just talked about before, one of the hardest things is getting people to engage and play with you. If you get someone who just doesn't want to engage, most of your time is spent trying to get them to engage so you can get into an ashigarami that's going to work and break them. If you've got people trying to attack your legs, well, they're doing that work for you. Assuming your defense is good, then you just go to work. And, I found that last time I trained with you guys, nearly going for your own attacks is going to get you in more trouble because, you guys are welcoming that attack so then you can counter that. Just recently, I've kind of improved my leg lock defense. I spent a fair bit of time with Jay talking about heel slipping, and that takes a long time to get that level of comfort where you actually like someone engaging. And I mean, not someone who's a spastic, someone who's actually good. You like them engaging, and then you can counter. I see that's something that a lot of the guys, that you train with, and obviously yourselves do. What's some tips for maybe people listening who aren't at that level where they're feeling all that confident? What's like some, other than putting yourself there in the training room, what's some tips technically that they can put into play there to maybe work on their ability to not get immediately heel hooked so they can then counter, Maybe if you go first, Nick, and then Jay can give us some.
Yeah, I would just work through the positions more. I mean, you got to be comfortable getting into the positions and just having a set of, like a plan every time you get into each position. Just a couple things to do. Also, let people grab your heel. And really understand the slip so you get more and more comfortable there. Because if not, then you're going to panic tap. And there's always a little bit of room to slip usually. So have a plan in each position and learn the slip because those two things will save you.
What about you, Dragon?
Fucking Frank. I'm putting an end to that shitty nickname.
Mate, it's gone. It's done.
It's over.
Man, that's
if
not
I
bad.
kill
Nick,
Frank, I think
if you kill Frank, I'll happily drop it if you kill Frank Rosenthal.
It's worth it. So in terms of gaining confidence, defending leg locks, I mean, I think what Nick said is pretty spot on. I think, I guess it depends on how deep in the game you are, but I think a lot of people tap before they really need to. When me and Nick train, it's not uncommon that we'll get each other's heels, but it's like extremely rare that we'll tap each other with leg locks. I think in general that applies to almost all submissions, but you have a lot more room to work than you think you do.
Yeah.
The difference between catching someone's heel and catching someone's heel to the point where they can't slip is a pretty big difference. And I think that's where kind of this true skill in applying the leg locks. I don't want to say the true skill. I mean, there's obviously a lot of skill everywhere else, but really being able to properly catch the heel where it becomes difficult to slip and being able to deal with somebody slipping and how to adjust based on that. I think not tapping when you think you need to. Obviously, you need trusted training partners to do that. You don't want to be trying to heel slip when someone's ripping on your leg, but I think you have a lot more time to work than you think you do.
Yeah. It's definitely a tricky part of the game, and I think the probably hard thing for a lot of people, if they're not coming out of an academy where there is a lot of people who are actually putting together decent leg locks, because as you guys know, and I'd like to think I know as well, there's different levels to this stuff, and some academies every academy's got their leg lock guy, But if you're being honest, he might be total trash, as you Americans say.
Trash.
He might be total trash on the scale of good leg locking, but in their gym, he's the guy. Maybe they're like, oh, I can defend his leg locks, and they go with someone who's a proper leg locker and then just get fucking murdered. I think that's tricky for people too, and that's why in tournaments, I think people come up against Nick Ronan or Jason Rau or a guy who can leg lock well, and they just get this shock like, what the fuck's this? I haven't experienced this. Well, how did that guy just? And I mean, you guys have done that to people in tournaments before as well. That different level of, it's hard for people to get to the defensive level they need to if they're not getting shown those looks in the training room too. That's a tricky thing. People keep asking. They keep talking like leg locks was the meta game, and people keep asking what's that next. What's that next meta? And then I hear a lot of the Henzo guys kind of talk about that scrimmage wrestling, coming up from bottom position. What do you guys, I mean, I'll go first with you, Jay. What do you see? I know we've talked about this sort of stuff before, but what do you see is what's that next thing that hasn't come out yet? If you don't want to give up anything, you don't have to give up any secrets here, but what do you see is that next meta of where we're going with submission grappling?
I definitely agree with that. The kind of seamless transition between standing technique and ground technique and mixing the two together. I think you look at this last ADCC. I'll preface this by saying, assuming that's going to be the dominant rule set, the ADCC rules, I think that's going to be kind of the new meta and the new trend. Unless whether it's ADCC or some other rule set comes out that's more favorable to other things, but for ADCC, I think that's the current trend, and it's going to continue going that way. I mean, if you look at the way people scored from bottom, it was almost. I mean, I can't even think of an instance where it was a conventional sweep and the person came on top. It was pretty much always like coming up into some type of wrestling position and putting the person down or taking their back when they defended the takedown. I mean, that seems to be where the current trend is, and I think it's just going to continue to develop.
So that's something we should be putting more time into.
Yeah, unfortunately, Luke.
Yeah, I'm just going to delete this bit out of there. So we're going to start now, and we'll be back on. No, I'm joking. Nick Ronan, what do you got for us? Is it that same direction or?
Yeah, I think people are going to start using bottom position to wrestle more, and I think the top people have to counter that. So I do think we're going to see more body lock passing to defend leg locks in the future. I think they're being underutilized right now. So I think we're going to see more body lock passing, especially when you see Meow and Gordon use it so efficiently. I think that's going to be a big trend, but yeah, definitely wrestling up from bottom is it's necessary.
Yeah, that's interesting saying like tight passing, because I find, as a guard player who's a very very poor version of what you guys are doing, I find if anyone passes me down low on their knees, I'd prefer that. I find like the most difficult guy to deal with is a good standing guy who can pummel through your leg attacks, for the type of guard that we're playing. I find if anyone tries to come down on their knees, they're basically just cannon fodder, like if they're just passing old school on their knees. But so do you think, because the reason Gordon can tight pass so well is because he defends so well through the standing passing. A lot of guys don't have that ability to, reverse V grip and step through and forward pummel and do all the things he does. I wonder whether these guys, like, you got to have that part of your game ticked off to be able to even get into tight passing. Is that fair to say? Or like, is there, because there's no cheat code to get from the outside position into a tight passing position without getting fucking murdered by someone. Like if you wander in on one of you guys and I try to just get to a tight passing body lock position, I mean, I've got to go through some shit to get to that. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I mean, you could always just start on your knees though, and that could nullify a lot of the leg locks right away, which is something like Sateva is pretty good at, which makes it very hard for him to enter leg locks, and they just start on their knees pretty much. Instead of when you start on your feet, I mean, there's a lot more leg lock opportunities right away. Reverse Delahiva, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, what Gordon's also really good at is going from standing position right to body lock.
Yeah,
like, that is starting.
Yeah, you fucking murdered me with that. Yeah, it's horrible.
I think that's that's like an important concept, to be able to use like the side to side pressure and the standing passes to get to a tight passing position. Connecting the high and the low passes. I think you look at someone like obviously Gordon or even JT Torres does that really well. I think all the best guys do that. Meows do that well. It's going to be so hard to, outside pass someone with a good guard.
Yeah.
But if you see like the outside passing, using that to get tight.
Yep.
And get to a better passing position on someone.
Gordon tends to force a lot of half guard situations. He talks about it a lot, and I felt it a lot with him where, all the guard play in the open was him coming in and then forcing that heavy half guard, and it just felt like there was a ton of bricks down on top of me. Do you think that's something, Nick, like you were saying with the body lock passing? Are you trying to force into that half guard and then pass with our more traditional cross faces and mounting and get into that zone?
Usually the goal of body lock passing is to get into a half guard position.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Yeah.
Because the body lock's just the start. But yeah, if you can force half guard on someone, you're gonna have a high chance of passing them usually.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. But it'll be interesting to see where it continues to go, because the evolution is just so fucking fast at the moment. Things are moving so quick. Like you look at a grappler, you look at like a good submission grappler now compared to 10 years ago, and it's just a different thing. Like it wouldn't even be a fair match if you put these guys together with each other. It's a totally different thing. It's exciting. And something that I'm excited to see is seeing the sort of stuff that we're doing incorporated into mixed martial arts. That's what I think is exciting, because cool. the reason we all even started doing jiu-jitsu is because we saw MMA and we're like, oh, these are kind of cool. Guys are punching each other in the face, and then you're like, oh, the ground stuff they're doing, you can just practice that. You don't have to get brain damage, and then we kind of keep going. That's the basic thing that generally attracts us to jiu-jitsu. Do you guys have obviously a lot of MMA influence on you because of you guys have got you got Ally Quinn, you got Aljamain Sterling, you got Merab Davishvili, you got obviously Merab, the crazy motherfucker. You guys have got Chris Weidman, you got all those guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys spend much time? You're so immersed in submission grappling, but do you spend much time thinking how you could help them start to win more MMA matches by submission? Because you don't see it as much anymore. You see a lot of MMA's kind of just kickboxing at the moment with small gloves on. But I feel like there's going to be a resurgence of submission fighting. But I think you've got to be very dynamic. And obviously Gary Tonin is a guy I'm very excited to watch, because he's got the game we're talking about, and he's actually doing it. So that's going to be really interesting. But do you guys see a way, if a MMA guy comes to you and says like, I want to start winning by submission, have you got ideas on what guards you think and that sort of stuff?
The one thing that I really like is the thing that Khabib does, which is where he traps the wrist against the guy's body and then ground and pounds and goes to mount and all that stuff. But one thing with a lot of MMA fighters is you got to teach them how to control someone on the ground first before you go into submission, because that's a whole nother art. Once they kind of understand how to control someone, then there's a bunch of submissions that will open up.
What do you think about the leg lock in? Do you see it has a place?
I think it does. Paul Harris kind of proved it a little bit when he's ripping everyone's leg off. It could be dangerous though, because it opens up your face to strikes. But I think if it's done right, it's done with control, I think you can submit people for sure in MMA with it.
I believe a lot of there's certain Ashigurami positions where they physically can't punch you. Like even a good inside Senkaku, it's actually quite difficult for a guy to punch you. And if he's just sitting there trying to punch you, there's a good chance you're going to be exposed to heel. And, I kind of feel like there's positions that are not being used because the meta at the moment is kickboxing with maybe just pin the guy on top. But that's why I can't wait to see a wave of guys that are coming through doing the kind of grappling we're doing in mixed martial arts. Like that's going to be, what do you see, Jay? Like if you got a guy comes to you and says, I want to be able to implement what you're doing in MMA.
I think the most applicable aspect is probably back control, attacking from the back, like the whole arm trapping system, or just in general being really good on the back. That you see from a lot of submission grapplers nowadays, because I think in MMA, it's not super uncommon to see someone get their back taken, but there's not that many guys that are very, very good at finishing. Like you have a Damian Maya, a Khabib, who are very adept at finishing someone, but I think there's a lot more opportunity to improve a lot of the guys' skill set there with a I don't want to say minimal time investment, but without a ton of time invested. In terms of the leg locking, I mean, I definitely think it could be implemented effectively. You see someone like Ryan Hall, and that's why I'm
I
kind
was
of
going to say
interested
that. Yeah.
see him fighting, because he's already put a lot of time into that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think taking someone who is not very skilled in that area, and like the amount of time invested in order to be good enough to apply leg locks to someone in that situation at a high level, I think is, I don't want to say it's not worth it, but it's almost like their time would probably be better spent in other areas. It's like I'd almost be curious for like someone like myself or someone like Nick, if I had, I mean, I have no plans on fighting, but if I had other MMA skills, like I'd be curious if I could like just give my leg locking game to some guy who's already got other skills and see how it would work.
Yeah, to like Ally Quinner, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
He'd go for it.
Al's definitely
Al's he's a wild man
who's very interested in learning leg locks, and he's put a good amount of time into it. And I would say he's probably better at them than 98% of people in MMA are right now. But I think to in order for that to work, you need to have like a big like skill advantage in that area over someone else. Like I don't think it's enough to I'm 10% better of a striker than this guy, I can beat him. Like you would have to be like 4 times, 5 times as good as him in that area in order to be able to apply that from bottom position. I mean, think about the amount of time it would take you to work your standing up from bottom, like making space and getting up. Like you could invest, I don't want to say minimal amount of time, but you can invest a certain amount of time and get, I think, fairly competent at that, versus like the amount of time you would have to invest to get competent. The equal competence in leg locks I don't think it's proportional.
Well, what you're saying is the current meta is probably easier to upskill yourself to that position. But what I'm trying to think of is, what if there was this revolution of something, But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of, I mean, the three of us absolutely obsess about this every day. And to get a guy in MMA to be able to put that much into it, he's going to have holes in his striking or other parts of his game, his fitness or whatever. So, I mean, that's the thing. There's only so much you can work on, isn't there? But, I mean, Ryan Hall is a perfect example, because guys don't want to fight him. And if he puts him on the ground, he's submitting people very, very quickly. Maybe the other thing is we take guys like the accountant sitting here on the lounge looking beautiful with his hair combed to the side. Maybe we take him and we give him
parted hair.
We give him a mohawk, and we give him some tattoos, and we give him a tap-out T-shirt, and we make him tattoos, and we make him an MMA fighter. Maybe the other way is to get a guy like that and teach him some striking and go from there. Because the only issue with that is that a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys are kind of a little too smart for that. They don't want to get their brains beat out the side of their head. And I'm not saying Gary Toner's not smart. He's a very, he makes a lot of good choices, but you've got to still be that kind of guy that wants to fight. And a lot of us that do jiu-jitsu aren't willing to make that sacrifice, of our bodies, I suppose. But maybe that's the thing. You get a couple of these phenoms like Nick and other guys that transfer over. I mean, in all seriousness, is that ever something you've considered, Nick, or is that just not even in your interest?
No, not really. I mean, I thought about it for a little bit when I was helping Gary train a little bit, getting ready for his MMA fights. And John would put us through a bunch of techniques, and it's definitely interesting. But I mean, the brain damage is just crazy. So
grappling is becoming so much more
lucrative.
I want to say lucrative. Yeah, I mean, it's the right word, but it's the wrong word. But it's becoming like a viable career choice.
Why get your head beaten?
I mean, I'd be curious. This is by no means a challenge to anybody listening, but I would be curious to do like sparring rounds with like myself or Nick or someone like us on bottom, like working leg locks with punches. I think that would be just an interesting experiment, just to see. I mean, and again, this is, not from really much personal experience. I mean, I've done that like a little bit with some of the guys, some of our fighters. I mean, they were by no means trying to beat my face in by any means, but I feel like there's definitely some ways you could avoid strikes and, start to get your leg attacks off, especially with the new K-guard stuff. You're kind of hiding your face pretty well.
Is that the one Lachlan Giles made?
He made it. But yeah, I think I mean, if you're in bottom position, I mean, what's the safest position you could think of to not get hit? I mean, maybe like a closed guard with like some type of clinch, maybe underhook half guard with your head buried in the hip, or some type of leg entanglement. I mean, there's not that many safe positions, where you're not gonna be getting punched.
Well, anytime
in the face.
your feet are on their hips, they can't punch you. Anytime their feet are on
Yeah.
their hips, I mean,
So
I
like
really
a standard
Ashi,
I would say, I want to say it's safe, but it's safer than just being freaking in knee shield, I think. So.
Okay, so basically, when I cut this in post production, Jason Rao's calling the entire
MMA
UFC
community out,
UFC roster out, and he says that in a challenge match he could beat any of them and would leg lock everybody. That's kind of the.
Although I got to say, when rolling with Chris, with Weidman, in those positions when going for them, like I just think about how much he would be punching me in all those positions.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's kind of scary.
You want to talk about thick? Chris Weidman, he's thick. He's a big boy. He's
he's a big dude.
Especially when he was going up to when he went up to light heavyweight, and I got some training with him, and he's a big, strong boy. I don't know if people realize how big, like, because he fights a middleweight, so people think, oh, it's an 84-kilo guy. Or in American, that's probably like some obscure reference to some old measurements tool that you guys have. But 84 kilograms for everyone else in the world is, not the biggest guy in the world. But then Chris Weidman's like a legitimate 105 kilos. He's a fucking absolute.
Well, you got to remember, a 185 or 84 kilos in MMA is really 205 the day of the fight.
Yeah,
and walking around at 225.
Yeah.
I feel like your MMA weight class is really probably 30 to 40 pounds lighter than your actual walk around weight.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you look at, I think Nick could fight at like 145 in MMA. I mean, he'd be a massive 145 pounder.
That's Ryan Hall. So what you're saying is Nick Ronan could beat Ryan Hall in a MMA fight. That's what.
No training right now. I think I give it to Nick.
This is how people like do their social media. These social media news sites. They just like sensationalize everything. I wanted to talk. What time did you say you have a hard out, Jay, at a time?
Yeah, so Yvonne teaches a Pilates Zoom class at 10, so like 15 minutes. So I think once she starts that, it's just going to be too loud. I don't think I don't think you'll be able to really hear me.
I wanted to talk about this because it's a big part of professional grappling that I still think a lot of the guys are not really taking that professional, and that's the recovery side of things. When I talk about, pre-training, post-training, sleep, nutrition, I've talked, like Jay and I have talked about this plenty. I'll start with you, Nick. Are you doing any of these things or considering any of these things, or is it just like most jiu-jitsu guys where I obsess about some techniques, I train like a fucking madman, but the rest of it I just kind of like act like a 15-year-old? Red Bulls and Pop-Tarts or something.
I'm not the best. I'm not the best with watching what I eat. I kind of just go a little bit crazy in that section, and then just train like crazy, and just hope it doesn't affect me.
Nice. That's a solid game plan. That's good. That's the same game plan.
It's not going to last forever, so I probably have to start making a switch pretty soon.
How old are you this year, Nick?
24.
24, you're just a little baby still. I mean that with all due respect too. It's just that Jason and I are becoming old men now.
Big 3-0.
I'm slightly older. Yeah, you're 30 now.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah. That means you're going to die at the 60s. What about one of my white belts the other day? So I turned 35 last month, and one of my white belts, 16-year-old little fucking assholes, he says to me, "Oh, happy birthday. How old are you?" And I said 35. He said, "Oh, so you're halfway to dying." I'm like, "You fucking asshole." And I hadn't actually thought about it.
I'm not
like,
a fucking chronic smoker, you little fuck.
I thought, fuck, he like this 15-year-old kid that knows nothing other than Call of Duty made me question, am I going to die at 70 years old? Hopefully not. I feel like I'll crack 80.
I mean, that would be an unlucky, age.
I think so.
You got until at least 75, Luke. Come on.
I would think so. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
But
I mean, what's the average life expectancy? Probably like 80 now, right?
And that's most people that don't look after themselves.
I think most people that are over 85 probably just want to die anyway. No.
I don't know. Look,
Cut that.
I think we've sorted that out. We've got this coronavirus. They've just got to go out and wander around for a bit.
I
That's all it takes.
That's what this is a boomer
Go to
virus.
the grocery store without a mask.
Look, I'm telling you, I've seen more boomers out and about. And for those listening that don't know what boomers is, I learnt this from the same 16-year-old. Boomer is something the young people call basically anyone older than them. Nick Ronan, you know about boomers, right? Is that like a saying, or was that the generation before you? Calling people boomers.
No, I've heard of it. Of it.
Yeah. So because there was the baby boomer generation, but then it's now been extended to basically
anyone over 23 is a boomer now. Fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Nick Rona's a boomer.
Like boomer, motherfucker. Like fuck you little kid.
Yeah, this same kid called me a boomer.
I feel like I'm 15.
Yeah, that's right. This is a boomer disease, but the boomers are the ones that are, every time I go out, they're the ones walking the streets. It's like they don't give a fuck. They're like, come at me, Corona. We're all sitting in our houses, and the boomers are like, yeah, it's not going to get me. Is that the same thing over there?
Yeah, the kids don't fucking care, dude. We should round them up and just fucking shoot them all. You can cut that too. You guys
have got guns. Remember, that's part of your second amendment. Hey, what about I love how Americans all have a good ride over anything. I don't know which fucking backward state it was, but they were riding over coronavirus. They were like out the front of one of the town halls or something. They're like, fucking fuck corona, fucking faggot corona. Like,
there's protests all over right now. There's like thousands of people gathering to protest in the streets. It's crazy.
Yeah.
and there's like a surge in any state that's having like huge protests. There's like a huge surge in cases. It's not.
I wonder why.
Maybe this is just made to thin out the herd through the middle of the American states, because basically you could nuke the middle and just keep the outsides, right? People only really want New York and California. Is that fair to say? I mean,
potentially, but then we'd end up with Bernie Sanders in office, so that would. That's probably the downside.
You guys are going to end up with Trump again. That's what's happening. All the rest are just going to pull out. You're going to end up with Trump, and he's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. The little I know about American politics, but I feel like I know enough to know that he's
wasn't there some scandal in Australia with like don't you guys get like a new prime minister every 6 months or something like that? Yeah, they just
pick him out. They get the shits, and then they're like, yeah, let's vote him out, and they all vote him out, and they just put the next one in. I didn't even know who the prime minister is most of the time.
Wow.
But it's not really. It doesn't really make any difference. It doesn't really make any difference. But anyway, the recovery side of things is obviously, Nick, you're saying that you're living like a 15-year-old on Call of Duty and Red Bulls. What about you, Mr. Rau? Because we've sorry, Nick. Yeah.
Like before competition, like a month before competition, I'll start eating healthy. Always. Like it's only like during the off season that I kind of like go to hell with myself a little bit. But anytime competition is close, I'm eating healthy, only drinking water, cutting back, eating right, protein shakes, all that stuff. So by the time in competition zone, like I'm healthy.
I worry about what healthy is for Americans because I've been there a few times now, and I don't know that you guys know what healthy is. I'm not convinced. Like most of your food is fucking absolute rubbish. This is like every Australian's conversation with Americans is where we get on this high and mighty position about how good our food is. I mean, you guys are sick of hearing us talk about it, but it seems to be like one of two directions in jiu-jitsu. It's like they're either completely steroided out of their fucking brains, or they're just like like I said, Call of Duty and Red Bulls. But I just feel like it's getting to the point where it's becoming a professional thing. If people could start to get all these other ducks in a row, it's got to give you an advantage. I mean, it's and not just the nutrition side of things, but the recovery stuff. Like, are you doing anything pre-training, Nick, or post-training, or anything along the lines of that? Are you lifting? Are you doing anything like that?
Yeah, I just usually just try to get protein in right after I train, to recover the muscles. Yeah, I mean, besides that, I do a little lifting. I do workouts at home every day, but nothing too crazy.
Jay?
Well, this ad sponsored by Whoop. So Luke, you got me onto this. You got this as a very nice gift for me, and I definitely think. I mean, I guess for people that don't know, it's a heart rate monitor. You wear it all the time. You wear it when you sleep, and it tracks your heart rate throughout the day. It tracks your workouts, your sleep patterns. And I definitely think since getting this, I've been able to make a few corrections in my daily life, and I feel as if my sleep has been improved. And
that was something that we realized with you, wasn't it? That your I don't know whether you had really realized it before, but when you get data that says you're sleeping terribly, you go, okay, I can actually see it in front of me, rather than like, I think I got some sleep last night.
Yeah, so it's actually, interestingly enough, since this whole COVID, well, I mean, it could be because I'm not training, but my recovery has been much better, but also my sleep, like just my night's sleep has been better. My heart rate is more steady. I'm not like waking up as much. I'm kind of sleeping straight through the night, which is, hopefully I can translate that over to
real life.
When things go back to normal. But I think we're
going to frame that as a headline on Flow Grappling. Jason Rau wants COVID-19 to stay so he can recover better. That's how it's going to read on Flow Grappling.
Clickbait. I feel like for this especially, maybe one of the best things as a grappler or competitor to be able to use this for is to help you peak for a competition. So if you wear this for a few months, you kind of get a general idea for what part of your week you are at your best. I mean, most people who do this, I mean, my week is pretty much the same every week. My training session at the same time every day, depending on that particular day. And kind of I have a certain point in my week where I'm feeling my best, and I have a point in my week where I'm at my worst. So when you have a competition coming up, you could kind of cycle or offset your week or stage your week to make it so that you're peaking on the particular day of the competition. I think that could be potentially very, very valuable. And you kind of always like, oh, I feel good today. I don't feel good today, but it's nice to have numerical data to back that up and support how you're feeling.
Well, the way I look at it, right, like you hop in your car. So for you in the nice Volvo, and for Nick the minivan, you don't have the minivan anymore, Nick.
No,
it's 2017, Nick.
That thing was perfect for you. That was perfect for you. Yeah, I was sad. It was like a Kia minivan. What was it? Was it Kia?
It was a Honda Odyssey.
Honda Odyssey. So as you can imagine, that is a panty dropper. I think that's the word.
Oh,
yeah. Women love Honda Odysseys.
Glasses when I drive, so I just look like a soccer mom driving it.
A soccer mom. Little do they know you could tear their legs from their body.
They don't know how dangerous he is.
No. You don't get in your car and go, oh, I think there's some fuel in there. Oh, I feel like the motor's a bit hot, or it needs a service. There's a dashboard for all that. And I kind of likened that, like our body is our most important vehicle we have, yet we all just kind of guesswork with all this stuff. And I was like, when this thing came out, I was like, fuck, I'm going to definitely give that a go. And that's the way I kind of consider it. I look at the app on my phone and I go, this is a dashboard for me. And over time, I've realized it's actually very accurate. Like, when my recovery's in the shitter, I feel, and it's not the placebo, I could not have it on and then look at it later and go, look, I didn't feel at my best whatsoever today. And I'd look at my recovery and my heart rate variability would be low and probably didn't get enough good sleep. Like it's obviously data that's useful. I don't know why more people aren't doing this, because I think, like what you're saying, Jay, especially if you treat it right as an athlete, you could really have yourself, peaking and being at your best, rather than going into a tournament, where you're at 50%. You might not even realize that you're just not going to your potential. Let alone if you can stay on top of this stuff every day, you're going to be able to train harder for longer and have less injuries and all that sort of stuff. Like I'm definitely not making this into a Whoop advertisement, because I have no affiliation with them, but I don't care what you use, but it's something along the lines to kind of look at your body as a dashboard just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think sleep is the biggest thing, and that's the thing probably that both we, Jason and I have talked about, that I find is the thing that a lot of people, barter with in their training. It's like, I only got 4 hours, but that's all right. Like, people barter with their sleep, but like, I think once you realize how important that is, things start to improve.
Do you feel like that thing motivates you to train harder, to like get your heart rate up? Like, let's say, like, it was up last week, you want it to be the same this week, so like,
I feel that way. I mean, especially when I'm stuck at home. I go on the rower every day or the elliptical. I'm definitely. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna go for 30 minutes. It's like I'm gonna go. So based on your recovery for the day, it has an optimal level of strain that's what it calls it, like strain or stress on your body that you should go to. So I usually try to go over that every day, or at least hit that. So whereas, I would maybe, if I didn't have it, I would think, oh, I got a good workout today.
Yeah.
I feel good. I'm like forced to push myself a little bit. So, so I think in that sense, it does make me, or if I'm doing a training session, I'll look at my strain. I'm like, oh, this session sucks. Like, I got to do a little bit more, whereas, obviously depending on if I was training with someone like you, it's obviously going to, go up higher. But if I'm training with, maybe I'm in the afternoon, I don't have the, best partners around. Don't want to insult anybody, but I might maybe Jason, do 8 rounds, and I'm like, oh shit, like, I haven't really worked that much, and like, I'll do something else to get my heart rate up, or I'll do more rounds, or do something with positional. Because I think jiu-jitsu is, in some sense, it can be a little deceiving in how hard you're working. Just because you're so close to somebody, you always work up such a good sweat.
Yeah, okay.
You'll be drenched, but maybe your heart rate is really not that high. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think efficiency plays into it. If you're better than the person you're training with, you're going to maintain a lower heart rate, just because, the goal of jiu-jitsu is efficiency. Like, the goal of working out is kind of like anti-efficiency. You can't efficiently go on the rower. You want to, work your heart rate up and get a workout. Jiu-jitsu, you want to be as efficient as possible but not have to work hard. So it's kind of opposite.
I think the key to that is just to start wrestling more.
Agreed, dude.
Jason, we're going to cut that out as well. We'll cut anything to do with wrestling. We're going to just cut out, just so you're aware. There's going to be
blank it over to like butt scooting. I think the key is butt scooting more.
Yeah, it'll be like my voice over Nick, and it'll be like, "Yo, I think we should butt." It'll be like my voice, butt scoot more.
I think we should butt scoot. All right, I think I gotta go. She's about to start. We're gonna hear yelling soon.
All right, fellas. Well, thanks for jumping on today. Appreciate it. It's always great to have you guys on board, and we'll talk soon. Do you want to? I don't know. I know Nick's semi-sponsored by the Black Man Maximus dummy. Did you any other sponsors, Nick? Do you want to shout out?
It's just the Atlas brand.
Yep, Atlas. Good Australian brand as well. Yep. Australia. Yeah, man. What about you, Mr. Rau?
Atlas brand. Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu. I actually think my instructional is going to be coming out next week, which is good timing. So leg lock counters, defense.
We talked about that today. It'll be on there.
Yeah.
Everyone better jump on there and buy that shit up, and all your other stuff as well.
Yeah. Please
all
do,
right, fellas,
people.
You guys are fantastic. We'll talk again soon.
All right.
Catch you, gentlemen. Bye.
Later, Nick.